When Hurricane Katrina devastated the Gulf Coast, Americans across this country immediately began asking, what can we do? Money was raised, supplies sent, but as with all things, the story eventually faded from the headlines and from many people's consciousness. 6 months later, the struggle to pick up the pieces continues, not just in New Orleans, but in small towns that never saw a camera crew, never made the evening news. But a lot of that is changing thanks to one Dutchess County man who had a crazy idea. Tara Lynn Wagner joins us with this story.
Well, what if you dropped everything and just helped someone in need? That's what Clay Laugier wondered one night while attending a birthday party with his friends. His simple musing turned into a movement as he grabbed a camera and headed to the Gulf. Like all crazy ideas, Clay Laugier's plan to help the victims of Hurricane Katrina was met with skepticism.
Is it such a crazy idea to give up everything and go down and help another person in need? All our friends said we were nuts.
It didn't take much to prove them wrong. Clay started to spread the word through the internet, and almost instantly his crazy idea took on a life of its own.
People started forums on what we were saying, and it started snowballing. And so one day we went online and we realized there was this whole community developed called The Crazy Idea.
People in devastated towns along the coast were sending him emails saying there was nothing left and no one to help them. No FEMA, no Red Cross, no news crew. They asked for his help, and he thought one way he could give it was to document their story.
What is exactly happening in these small towns? What's the recovery effort like? How can we show this to a mass audience? And that's where we got the idea for a documentary. We had in our minds that it wasn't really that bad, that, you know, we live in America and America helps everyone else in the world. And when we got down there, it took the breath away from us.
Is the rest of the stuff getting unloaded for Acorn?
After talking with residents, delivering supplies, and helping them clean up debris, the One Crazy Idea crew returned to New York and brought their footage to an Ulster-based nonprofit film company called Indie Inc.
A couple of towns where there's nothing. The town doesn't exist.
There, student Shane Masterson is working with Clay to create the documentary that he hopes will not just foster awareness of the devastation caused by Katrina, but also the need for volunteerism, which he calls the other side of patriotism.
If you have people in despair at home, you can't exactly go and be an example to the rest of the world. You know, that you need to take care of home base before you can take care of anything else.
Back to you, Rich.
Well, thank you, Tara Lynn. Now, I had a chance to sit down with Clay and BRANDI Oakes. Here's part of our interview. I've seen the backstory, but I'm still trying to get this. You're at a party, and all of a sudden, pardon the pun, the crazy idea comes to you. You go down. First off, it doesn't go according to script, right? Talk about some of the roadblocks you hit into from the truck and everything else.
Well, we had this idea at this party, and I asked a couple of our friends about it, and they said, you know, it was a crazy idea and stuff like that. And as we went on and started building, talking to other people on the internet, realized that it wasn't such a crazy idea. When we finally got everything up and going and started our trip down there, we hit a couple of roadblocks. One, the box truck that Marsupial Contracting had us use to bring down the supplies had a problem with its radiator in Tennessee, Knoxville to be exact. So I was driving my Dodge Dakota and wound up selling it in order to keep the journey going, to fund for the parts that we needed to keep the truck going to bring the supplies down to the people in the Gulf Coast.
I'm curious, from both your perspectives, and start with yourself, BRANDI. From what you saw and what you got from the experience compared to what you thought you would when you left, what were the differences?
I mean, what we saw up here was nothing compared to what we actually saw down there. We weren't even close to really ready for what we'd see or go through. Our pen pal Barbara Burrell, she actually sent us photos to kind of get us ready for it and show us what we're going to see, but when you get down there, it's nothing you could ever expect.
Because you guys weren't as much in the New Orleans dominant area as you were in more of some of the outlining areas, correct?
Yeah, we wound up going to, Barbara Burrell is from Rio, Louisiana, which is a part of Bogalusa, Louisiana. If anyone grew up in a small town, you know, where I come from, Red Hook is the prominent town, but Tivoli kind of shares the town and is the village of Tivoli. It's kind of the same setup down there. When we got down there, we realized that the small towns that were affected, Waveland, outside of Bay St. Louis, I know some of the news stories have been focusing on Bay St. Louis, which is more the upper class sections, but in terms of the outlining areas around Mississippi and New Orleans have not been touched on, and the relief is getting desperate still to this day down there. It's 6 months later.
So fast forward, you come back, you decide you're going back again, and you guys are going back down this Sunday. Talk about how the aim of this trip will be a little bit different, I guess, Brandy, from what you got the last time.
We basically want to hit the organizations that we didn't go to see last time. We're going to bring down more donations and collections and bring them down to church groups and just to smaller towns that need it.
Now, you in fact gave up your job, right?
Yes, I did. I gave up my job to come down and to work with a crazy idea.
Talk a little bit about when you go down and when you leave after this next trip, what you hope to leave behind, other than just goodwill, that the people don't feel they're being abandoned, but some of the necessities that you think will make a difference.
What we're doing this trip, the first trip was really to get a feel of what's going on, shoot the actual documentary that is going to be made showcasing these small towns and the courage and the downfall.
Do these folks feel left behind, the folks that you met there before?
The biggest thing was, yeah, they feel left behind, but that's not the story they want to tell us. They were, a lot of the times, over and over again, we got, yeah, you know, FEMA messed up, or the federal government didn't do it, or the state government didn't do it, but really, if I sat here and waited, nothing would get done. And the stories of courage that we heard of people just joining together, you have to remember, like in Rye, Louisiana, everyone lives on the same block. Everyone, your whole family lives in the same town, so if the town is gone, there's nowhere else to go.
So it kind of made more sense after the trip to a lot of us when we watch on TV. Why didn't the people just get out of Dodge? It made more sense when you saw it because the whole life was there and you can't.
You can't. And the thing is also, the reports down there, remember these people, it's just like us with our snowstorms, nor'easters. They go through it every year like clockwork. You're going to get a hurricane now, whether it's between a 1 or a 5 is up to nature. And so most of them stay behind because you don't really know. To them, it might be considered a 4, but then when it gets to them, it's only a 1, you know, it's like a bad rainstorm.
I can't help but notice the orange pins that you have here, clothespins with orange bands. I don't know the right way to say it. And this obviously for the victims and more specifically, I guess, for the crazy idea, right?
This is for anyone who supports crazy ideas. We picked a color that no one was using yet for their projects, and anyone who wears this orange supports crazy ideas throughout the country.
Thank you both. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about Clay's crazy idea and how you can support the efforts, please visit their website at supportacrazyidea.com, which we've linked to our website at rnntv.com. We'll be right back, everyone, with a look at the country's largest St. Patrick's Day parade. Please stay with us.
The timetable